You know, there comes a moment in every person's life when they look up at the sky, or down at their hands, or straight ahead into the mirror, and they whisper those words that feel so vulnerable, so raw, so absolutely human. Hey God, I'm feeling lost in life. And if you're hearing these words right now and something inside you is stirring, something is recognizing itself in that statement, then I want you to know something absolutely essential. That feeling of being lost isn't a sign that you've failed. It isn't evidence that you're broken. It isn't proof that you've taken too many wrong turns or that you've somehow missed the boat on your purpose. That feeling of being lost is actually one of the most sacred experiences you can have as a human being, because it means you're awake enough to know that where you are right now isn't where you're supposed to be. It means you're conscious enough to feel the gap between your current reality and your higher calling. It means you haven't given up, you haven't settled, you haven't resigned yourself to a life of quiet desperation. See, most people walk through life asleep. They follow the prescribed path that was handed to them by their parents, their teachers, their culture, their society. They take the job they're supposed to take. They buy the house they're supposed to buy. They live the life they're supposed to live. And they never once stop to ask themselves, is this what I actually want? Is this who I truly am? Is this the reason I came to this planet? But you, the fact that you're feeling lost, the fact that you're questioning, the fact that you're searching, that makes you one of the brave ones. That makes you one of the ones who are willing to wake up from the collective trance and say, there has to be more than this. Now, I know what it feels like to be in that space. I know what it's like to wake up in the morning and not have that fire inside you, that sense of purpose, that knowing that you're on the right track. I know what it's like to look at your life and feel like you're watching someone else's movie, like you're playing a role in a script that someone else wrote. I know what it's like to feel disconnected from yourself, disconnected from others, disconnected from whatever it is that people call God or the universe or the source or that higher power that's supposed to make sense of all this. And when you're in that space, when you're feeling that lostness, it can be terrifying. It can make you feel like you're falling through darkness with nothing to hold on to, nothing to guide you, nothing to tell you that everything's going to be okay. But here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really understand, not just with your mind, but with your heart, with your soul, with every cell of your being. Being lost is not the opposite of being found. Being lost is actually the first step toward being found. You cannot find yourself if you never acknowledge that you're lost. You cannot change direction if you never admit that you're on the wrong path. You cannot transform your life if you never face the truth about where you are right now. So that feeling of lostness, that discomfort, that confusion, that sense of I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going, that's not your enemy, that's your teacher. That's your wake-up call. That's life itself saying to you, hey, pay attention, something needs to change here. And here's the beautiful thing about feeling lost. When you're lost, you become willing to ask for help. When you're lost, you become willing to try new directions. When you're lost, you become willing to let go of the old maps that weren't working anyway. Think about it. When you're convinced you know where you're going, when you're absolutely certain you're on the right path, you close yourself off to new possibilities. You stop listening. You stop learning. You stop growing. But when you admit you're lost, when you say, hey God, I need some guidance here, you open yourself up. You become receptive. You become teachable. You become available for the miracles that are trying to find you. So let's talk about this conversation you're having with God. This prayer that says, I'm feeling lost in life. First of all, the fact that you're even having that conversation is significant. You're acknowledging that there's something greater than yourself, something wiser than your ego, something more expansive than your limited perspective. You're reaching out. You're asking. You're knocking on the door. And there's an ancient promise that says, when you knock, the door will be opened. When you ask, you will receive. When you seek, you will find. But you have to be willing to do those things. You have to be willing to knock, to ask, to seek. You can't just sit there passively waiting for life to happen to you, waiting for purpose to fall from the sky like a meteor, waiting for someone else to tell you what you're supposed to do. Now, when you say, hey God, what are you really saying? You're acknowledging that you're not alone in this. You're acknowledging that there's an intelligence in the universe that's greater than your thinking mind. You're acknowledging that you came from somewhere, that you're connected to something, that there's a force that created you, and that force has not abandoned you. See, one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves when we're feeling lost is that we're on our own, that we have to figure everything out by ourselves, that we're somehow separate from the source of all wisdom and guidance. But that's just not true. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from the universe. You are not separate from that creative intelligence that spins galaxies and grows trees from tiny seeds and turns acorns into oak trees. You are an expression of that intelligence. You are a unique manifestation of that creative force. And that means that everything you need to find your way, everything you need to step into your purpose, everything you need to create a life that feels aligned and authentic and true, all of that is already inside you. It's not out there somewhere. It's not in a different city or a different job or a different relationship. It's right here, right now, within you. The problem is, we've been conditioned to look outside ourselves for answers. We've been taught to believe that someone else has the map, someone else has the instructions, someone else knows better than we do what we're supposed to do with our lives. And so we spend years, sometimes decades, asking other people what we should do. We ask our parents, our friends, our teachers, our bosses, our partners. We read books and take courses and hire coaches and attend seminars, all looking for someone to tell us who we are and what we're supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with seeking wisdom from others. There's nothing wrong with learning from people who have walked the path before you, but at some point, you have to come back home to yourself. At some point, you have to trust your own inner knowing. At some point, you have to realize that nobody out there has the answers for your life because nobody out there is living your life. Only you are living your life. Only you have access to your inner guidance system. Only you can feel what's true for you. So when you're feeling lost, the first thing I want you to do is stop looking outside yourself for directions. Stop asking everyone else what you should do. Stop trying to find your purpose in a book or a workshop or a guru. Instead, get quiet, get still, get silent. Create some space between the thoughts in your head and the awareness that's watching those thoughts. Because that awareness, that witnessing presence, that's the part of you that's connected to infinite intelligence. That's the part of you that knows the way. That's the part of you that's never been lost, even when your mind feels completely confused. You see, there are two parts of you. There's the ego, the thinking mind, the part of you that's been conditioned by your past, by your fears, by your limiting beliefs, by what you think you're supposed to do and who you think you're supposed to be. And then there's your true self, your higher self, your soul, the part of you that existed before you were born and will exist after you die, the part of you that's eternal and infinite and connected to everything. When you're feeling lost, it's because your ego is lost. Your ego doesn't know what to do. Your ego is confused and scared and overwhelmed. But your true self is never lost. Your true self knows exactly where you are and where you're going. Your true self is always guiding you, always whispering to you, always trying to get your attention. The problem is, the ego is loud. The ego never stops talking. The ego fills your head with worry and doubt and fear and criticism and judgment and endless mental chatter. And underneath all that noise, there's a quiet voice, a gentle voice, a loving voice, trying to guide you home. But you can't hear it when you're caught up in the noise. You can't hear it when you're constantly distracted and busy and overwhelmed. You can't hear it when you're scrolling through your phone or binge watching shows or filling every moment with activities so you don't have to be alone with yourself. That quiet voice, that inner guidance, requires silence. It requires stillness. It requires you to stop and breathe and listen. So if you're feeling lost, here's what I want you to do. I want you to create some time every single day to be quiet. It doesn't have to be hours. It can be 15 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 5 minutes, if that's all you've got. But I want you to sit down, close your eyes, and just breathe. Don't try to figure anything out. Don't try to solve your problems. Don't make a to-do list. Just breathe and be present with yourself. And in that silence, in that stillness, start to listen. Not with your ears, but with your heart. Not with your thinking mind, but with your intuition. Start to pay attention to the subtle feelings, the quiet nudges, the gentle knowing that arises when you're not drowning it out with mental noise. And here's what you'll find when you start to listen to that inner voice. You'll find that it doesn't speak in complicated language. It doesn't give you 5-year plans or detailed instructions. It speaks in simple words. It speaks in feelings. It speaks in intuitions. It might say something like, call that person, or take that class, or go for a walk in nature, or rest today, or it's time to have that difficult conversation. The guidance is always simple. It's always about the next right step, not the entire staircase. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They want to see the whole path before they take the first step. They want to know exactly where they're going and how they're going to get there before they're willing to move. But that's not how life works. That's not how faith works. That's not how spiritual guidance works. Life asks you to take one step at a time. Life asks you to trust in the darkness. Life asks you to move forward even when you can't see what's ahead. And I know that's scary. I know that feels vulnerable. I know that goes against everything you've been taught about needing to have a plan and needing to be in control and needing to know exactly what's going to happen. But the truth is, you never really know what's going to happen. You never really have control. The only thing you have is this present moment and the choice you make right now. So instead of trying to figure out your entire life, instead of trying to see the whole path, just ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today that feels aligned with my truth? What's one thing I can do right now that moves me in the direction of who I want to become? Maybe it's having an honest conversation with someone. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's applying for a new job. Maybe it's starting that creative project you've been putting off. Maybe it's ending a relationship that's no longer serving you. Maybe it's forgiving someone. Maybe it's forgiving yourself. Maybe it's simply acknowledging that you don't have to have all the answers right now, and that's okay. Whatever it is, take that one step, trust that one nudge, follow that one feeling, and then take the next step, and then the next one. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize that you've traveled a long way from where you started. You'll realize that all those small steps added up to a transformation. You'll realize that you're no longer lost because you've been following your own inner guidance all along. Now, let's talk about why you feel lost in the first place. Because I don't think feeling lost is random. I don't think it just happens for no reason. I think there are specific causes, specific reasons why people find themselves in that space of confusion and disconnection. And one of the biggest reasons is this: you're living a life that isn't aligned with your true self. You're trying to be someone you're not. You're following a path that someone else chose for you. You're pursuing goals that don't actually matter to you. You're spending your time and energy on things that don't light you up, that don't inspire you, that don't make you feel alive. See, we live in a world that's constantly telling us who we should be. From the time we're children, we're getting messages about what success looks like, what happiness looks like, what a good life looks like. We're told to get good grades so we can get into a good college, so we can get a good job, so we can make good money, so we can buy a good house and have a good family and live a good life. And if we follow that formula, we're told, we'll be happy, we'll be fulfilled, we'll be successful. But here's what nobody tells you. That formula, that prescribed path, it doesn't work for everyone. In fact, it doesn't work for most people, because most people are not living their own lives. They're living someone else's idea of what their life should be. And when you're living someone else's life, when you're trying to fit yourself into a box that wasn't made for you, of course you're going to feel lost. Of course you're going to feel disconnected. Of course you're going to wake up one day and think, is this all there is? Is this what I worked so hard for? Because it's not your life. It's a life you inherited. It's a life you were conditioned to want. It's a life you thought you were supposed to live. But it's not the life your soul came here to live. Your soul didn't come here to be normal. Your soul didn't come here to fit in. Your soul didn't come here to make everyone else comfortable or to meet everyone else's expectations. Your soul came here to express itself uniquely, to contribute something that only you can. Contribute, to experience life in a way that only you can experience it. And when you're not allowing that to happen, when you're suppressing your true nature, when you're hiding your gifts, when you're playing small, when you're living according to someone else's rules, your soul feels that. Your soul rebels against that. Your soul creates that feeling of lostness as a way of saying, this isn't it. This isn't why we're here. We need to make a change. So if you're feeling lost, I want you to get honest with yourself. I want you to ask yourself some hard questions. Are you doing what you love or what you think you should do? Are you in relationships that support your growth or relationships that keep you stuck? Are you expressing your truth or are you hiding behind a mask? Are you making choices based on your own values or based on what other people will think? Are you living authentically or are you performing? Are you following your heart or are you following the crowd? And Listen, I'm not saying you need to blow up your entire life. I'm not saying you need to quit your job tomorrow or leave your relationship or move to another country, although sometimes those things are exactly what you need to do. What I'm saying is, you need to start making small adjustments. You need to start bringing more of your true self into your daily life. You need to start honoring your own needs and desires instead of constantly putting everyone else first. You need to start saying yes to things that excite you and no to things that drain you. You need to start creating space for the person you actually are instead of the person you think you should be. And here's what happens when you start doing that. Life starts to feel different. You start to feel more alive. You start to feel more energized. You start to feel more like yourself. That feeling of lostness starts to fade because you're coming back home to who you really are. You're aligning your outer life with your inner truth. You're closing the gap between the person you're pretending to be and the person you actually are. And in that alignment, in that authenticity, in that truth, you find your way. Not because someone gave you a map, but because you're creating your own path. Now, another reason people feel lost is because they're focused on the wrong things. They're focused on the destination instead of the present moment. They're focused on outcomes instead of the process. They're focused on what they don't have instead of what they do have. They're focused on the future instead of right now. And when you're constantly living in the future, when you're always thinking about where you want to be instead of where you are, you miss the only moment that actually exists, which is this moment right here, right now. See, the future doesn't exist. It's just a concept in your mind. It's just a projection, a fantasy, a story you're telling yourself about what might happen, and the past doesn't exist either. It's just a memory, a collection of thoughts about what already happened. The only thing that's real, the only thing that's actually happening, is this present moment. And in this present moment, you're not lost. In this present moment, you're exactly where you need to be. In this present moment, you have everything you need to take the next step. But we don't live in the present moment. We live in our heads, thinking about yesterday and tomorrow, replaying the past and rehearsing the future, worrying about what went wrong and what might go wrong, regretting our mistakes and fearing our failures. And in all that mental time travel, we miss the miracle of now. We miss the beauty that's right in front of us. We miss the opportunities that are available to us. We miss the guidance that's trying to reach us. Because guidance doesn't come from the past or the future. Guidance comes from the present moment. So if you're feeling lost, bring yourself back to now. Stop worrying about where you'll be in 5 years or 10 years. Stop beating yourself up about where you were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Just be here. Be present with your breath. Be present with your body. Be present with your surroundings. Be present with the people in your life. Be present with the task in front of you. And in that presence, in that nowness, you'll find a peace that transcends understanding. You'll find a clarity that doesn't come from thinking. You'll find a knowing that doesn't need to know everything. And here's another thing about feeling lost. Sometimes we feel lost because we're comparing ourselves to other people. We look at what everyone else is doing and we think we should be further along. We think we should have it all figured out by now. We think we should have more success, more money, more recognition, more progress to show for our years on this planet. And when we don't measure up to this imaginary standard, when we don't look as successful as the carefully curated highlight reels we see on social media, we feel like we're behind. We feel like we're failing. We feel like we're lost. But here's the truth. There is no behind. There is no ahead. There is no right timeline. There is no schedule you're supposed to be on. Everyone is on their own unique path, moving at their own unique pace, learning their own unique lessons, facing their own unique challenges. You cannot compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. You cannot compare your internal struggle to someone else's external appearance. You cannot judge your entire worth and progress based on what you can see of other people's lives, which is only a tiny fraction of their whole story. The person you think has it all figured out, they're dealing with things you know nothing about. The person who looks so successful and confident and purposeful, they have their own doubts and fears and moments of feeling lost. Everyone, and I mean everyone, goes through periods of uncertainty. Everyone questions their path. Everyone wonders if they're doing the right thing. Everyone feels lost at some point. It's part of being human. It's part of the growth process. It's part of the transformation from who you were to who you're becoming. So stop comparing, stop measuring, stop judging. Your only competition is yourself. Your only concern is whether you're growing, whether you're learning, whether you're becoming more of who you truly are. Are you more authentic today than you were yesterday? Are you more compassionate? Are you more courageous? Are you more aligned with your truth? Those are the only questions that matter. Not how you stack up against someone else. Not whether you're where you think you should be. Not whether you're meeting some external standard of success. Just whether you're evolving, whether you're expanding, whether you're moving toward love instead of fear. And let me tell you something else about this feeling of being lost. Sometimes, and this is really important to understand, sometimes feeling lost is not a problem to be solved. Sometimes feeling lost is exactly where you need to be. Sometimes feeling lost is the universe's way of forcing you to let go of control. Sometimes feeling lost is life's way of stripping away everything that's not essential so you can find what really matters. Sometimes feeling lost is the necessary discomfort that precedes a breakthrough. Think about it this way: when a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, what happens? Complete dissolution. The caterpillar literally turns into mush. If you could ask that caterpillar how it's doing in that moment, it would probably say, "I'm completely lost. I have no idea what's happening. Everything I knew about myself is falling apart." But that dissolution, that falling apart, that lostness, that's not the end of the story. That's the middle of the story. That's the transformation phase. And when the butterfly emerges, when the transformation is complete, that butterfly doesn't regret the time in the cocoon. That butterfly doesn't wish it had stayed a caterpillar. That butterfly is grateful for the process, even though the process was uncomfortable and confusing and required complete surrender. You might be in your cocoon right now. You might be in that phase where everything is falling apart, where nothing makes sense, where you can't see what's coming next, and that's okay. That's not a sign that you failed. That's a sign that you're transforming. That's a sign that you're becoming something new. That's a sign that the old version of you is dying so a new version can be born. And that process, that transformation, it's messy, it's uncomfortable, it's confusing, but it's also necessary. You cannot become a butterfly without first being willing to dissolve. So when you're in that space, when you're feeling lost and everything seems uncertain, instead of resisting it, instead of fighting it, instead of trying to force your way back to something familiar and comfortable, what if you just allowed it? What if you trusted it? What if you said, "Okay, I don't understand what's happening right now, but I'm willing to be in this space. I'm willing to not know. I'm willing to surrender my need for control and certainty. I'm willing to trust that there's something bigger at work here, something that's rearranging my life for my highest good, even though I can't see it yet." That's faith, real faith. Not faith that everything will work out exactly how you want it to. Not faith that you'll get all the things you think you need. Not faith that life will be easy and comfortable and free of challenges. But faith that you're being guided, that you're being supported, that you're being led towards something that's for your highest good, even when you can't see the path, even when you don't understand the process, even when everything looks like it's falling apart. And here's what I know to be true. When you surrender like that, when you stop fighting against what is and start flowing with what is, when you stop trying to control everything and start trusting in something greater than yourself, magic happens. Doors open that you didn't even know were there. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have planned for. People show up at exactly the right time with exactly the right message. Things fall into place in ways you never could have orchestrated with your thinking mind, because you've gotten out of your own way. You've stopped blocking the flow with your fear and your doubt and your need to control. You've opened yourself up to receive the guidance that's always been there, just waiting for you to be willing to hear it. Now, I want to talk about purpose for a minute, because a lot of people feel lost because they think they haven't found their purpose yet. They think there's some big cosmic reason they're supposed to be here, and they just haven't figured it out yet. And they beat themselves up about it. They feel inadequate. They feel like everyone else has this figured out and they're the only ones still searching. But here's what I want you to understand about purpose. Purpose is not something you find. Purpose is something you create. Purpose is something you live. Purpose is not a destination. Purpose is a direction. Your purpose is not a job title. Your purpose is not a specific career. Your purpose is not some grand mission that you have to accomplish before you die. Your purpose is much simpler than that and much more profound. Your purpose is to be love. Your purpose is to grow. Your purpose is to serve. Your purpose is to express your unique gifts in a way that contributes to the world. Your purpose is to live authentically. Your purpose is to wake up. Your purpose is to remember who you really are and to help others remember who they really are. And you can do that in any job, in any relationship, in any circumstance. You can be a teacher and live your purpose. You can be a parent and live your purpose. You can be an artist or an accountant or a nurse or a mechanic and live your purpose. It's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's about the consciousness you bring to whatever you're doing. It's about the love you bring to every interaction. It's about the presence you bring to every moment. So if you're waiting to find your purpose before you start living fully, you've got it backwards. Start living fully and your purpose will find you. Start showing up as your best self in whatever situation you're in right now, and the next step will reveal itself. Start being of service. Start expressing your gifts. Start following your excitement. Start doing what makes you come alive, and the path will unfold. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start where you are with what you have and take the next right step. And here's something else about feeling lost that I think is really important. Sometimes we feel lost because we're in between chapters of our lives. We've closed one door, but another door hasn't opened yet. We've ended something, but we haven't begun something new. We're in what I call the void, that space between what was and what will be. And the void is uncomfortable. The void is uncertain. The void is where you have to sit with not knowing. But the void is also sacred. The void is where new possibilities are born. The void is where transformation happens. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For a while, nothing visible is happening. The seed is just sitting there in the dark earth. If you didn't know better, you might think nothing's happening, that the seed is dead, that it was all a waste of time. But underneath the surface, everything is happening. Roots are growing. Energy is gathering. Life is preparing to burst forth. And then one day, a little green shoot breaks through the soil and reaches toward the sun. But that shoot couldn't have happened without the time in the darkness. That growth couldn't have happened without the time of apparent nothingness. You might be in the darkness right now. You might be in that phase where nothing seems to be happening, where you can't see any progress, where it feels like you're just stuck in limbo. But I promise you, things are happening. You're growing roots. You're gathering energy. You're preparing for your next chapter. You just can't see it yet, so don't give up. Don't lose faith. Don't think that nothing's happening just because you can't see visible results yet. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust that your life is unfolding exactly as it's meant to, even when it doesn't look like anything you expected or planned for. And one more thing about being lost. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself when you're feeling lost is to stop trying so hard to find yourself. Stop searching so frantically for answers. Stop pushing and forcing and trying to make things happen. Sometimes the best thing you can do is rest. Be still. Do nothing. Just breathe and exist and trust that you don't have to figure everything out right now. Trust that it's okay to not be okay. Trust that it's okay to be in a space of not knowing. Trust that you're allowed to be a work in progress. We live in a culture that's obsessed with productivity and achievement and constant forward motion. We're taught that we always have to be doing something, accomplishing something, moving towards something. We're taught that rest is lazy and stillness is wasting time, and not knowing what to do means we're failing. But that's just not true. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is admit you don't know and be okay with that. Your worth is not determined by how much you accomplish. Your value is not measured by your productivity. You are inherently worthy just because you exist. You don't have to earn your place on this planet. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't have to have it all figured out to be valuable and important and deserving of love and respect. You are enough exactly as you are right now, lost or not lost, confused or clear, struggling or thriving. You are enough. So be gentle with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend who was going through a hard time. You wouldn't tell them they're a failure. You wouldn't tell them they should have it all figured out by now. You wouldn't tell them they're behind or they're not good enough or they're wasting their life. You would tell them it's okay. You would tell them they're doing the best they can. You would tell them they're loved and valued and you believe in them. So why can't you offer yourself that same kindness? Why can't you give yourself that same grace? Feeling lost doesn't mean you're weak. Feeling lost doesn't mean you're broken. Feeling lost doesn't mean you've done something wrong. Feeling lost means you're human. It means you're growing. It means you're between chapters. It means you're in the process of becoming. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to be honored. That's something to be respected. That's something to be held with tenderness and care. So here's what I want to leave you with. When you look up at the sky or down at your hands or straight ahead into the mirror and you whisper, "Hey God, I'm feeling lost in life," I want you to know that God hears you. The universe hears you. That higher power that created you and loves you and has never abandoned you, that power hears you. And the response isn't judgment. The response isn't disappointment. The response isn't, "What's wrong with you? Why haven't you figured this out yet?" The response is love. The response is compassion. The response is, "I know, my child. I know you're struggling. I know you can't see the path right now, but I can see it, and I'm guiding you. Every moment, every breath, every step, I'm guiding you. Trust me. Trust yourself. Trust the process. You're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be." And that's the truth. You are not lost. You feel lost, yes, but you are not lost. You are found by love. You are held by grace. You are guided by wisdom that's greater than your thinking mind. You are on a path that's uniquely yours, a path that no one else can walk, a path that's leading you toward your highest good even when you can't see it. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep listening to that quiet voice within. Keep being brave enough to be honest about where you are. Keep being willing to not have all the answers. Keep showing up as yourself, imperfect and uncertain and beautifully human. Your life is not a problem to be solved. Your life is a mystery to be lived. Your life is an adventure to be experienced. Your life is a gift to be unwrapped one moment at a time. So stop trying to see the whole path. Stop trying to know the ending before you've lived the middle. Stop trying to control what can't be controlled. Instead, be here, be now. Be present with what is. Be open to what's trying to emerge. Be willing to not know. Be willing to be surprised. Be willing to be led. And know this, really know this in the depths of your being. You are never alone. You are never unsupported. You are never unloved. Even in your darkest moments, even in your most confused moments, even in your most lost moments, you are surrounded by love. You are held by grace. You are being guided home, not to a place but to yourself, not to an answer but to a way of being, not to certainty but to trust. So breathe, relax, let go. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't have to have your whole life planned. You don't have to know what you're doing or where you're going. You just have to take the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one. And trust that step by step, moment by moment, breath by breath, you're finding your way. Not because someone gave you directions, but because you're creating your own path. Not because you never feel lost, but because you're willing to keep walking even when you do. That's courage. That's faith. That's wisdom. That's what it means to be alive. So keep going, dear soul. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, keep loving, keep growing, keep becoming. Your life is unfolding exactly as it should. And you, yes, you, are exactly where you need to be.